anyone who loves whiskey, I'm sure you understand the quality difference between single malt versus blended whiskey. People who love whiskey always like to choose the single malt, and then comes to the years, right? If you ask them what was the reason why they prefer the single malt than the blended whiskey, they all will tell you that because the quality and the taste are much purer and authentic than the blending. So the values of this whiskey goes up based on the years of single malt and how they made it, who made it. The style work with tea. As a matter of fact, there's some link we can refer it to the tea quality grading as well. Recently, there are more and more small tea farmers or tea companies in Sri Lanka, in India, try to promote their tea, to distinguish their tea from the big mega companies. So they come up with a single source danping, different from the Pingpei blended. But that also applies to Chinese specialty. Well, first of all, if it's authentic Chinese specialty, it is all single source. I will explain further. And of course, you will argue, and we're going to admit, there are things happens is faking the production origins. The original identity sometimes is faked because the authentic place has better reputations, and normally the price of tea can be sold in the higher with a better margin. So it does have a so-called source identity issues there. But even if they fake the original identity, they still is the single source. What does that mean? If we think about how many definitions in the single source, in pu'er tea, for example, 单株 is 单 means single, 株 that means tree, specific tree. So 单株 pu'er, that means the tea picking from that particular tea tree from the single source. And as you can imagine that, normally they will not put a bidding on the young tree. Normally it's very, very old tea trees. Tea tree has been numbered. Okay, and the people like auctions market, they put a price on it and they take the tea from there. It's a 单株 pu'er. And because the quantity is very little, very limited, so the price is much higher. And normally this is the tea for real tea collectors who know how to distinguish and appreciate the values of tea. But most of the Chinese specialty teas are single source quality. What does that mean? The tea trees are growing in the same region. And this principle applies to almost green, white, yellow, pu'er, oolong, black tea. Pu'er is something else. Because pu'er region is very unique in terms of local climates, cosmopolitan environment, eco conditions of that particular region. So, for example, Xigui normally is the pu'er tea from Xigui area. If it's a pu'er from Dalü, Daxueshan, that is the pu'er tea picked from the Daxueshan range. So there is an identity, and there's nothing to confuse about it. But the Bingdao, somehow there's a lot of faked origin identity issues, because Bingdao village has a very limited quantity and the price normally is quite expensive. But outside of Bingdao village, it's still the Bingdao region. It is a Danping cha. It is also called as a Bingdao pu'er, and it does have a very good flavor as well. But it is not from the Bingdao village, that's all. But it is still from the Bingdao region. But there are a lot of tea claimed produced in Xishuangbanna, sometimes are blended from the different sources of tea trees. For example, the most famous pu'er tea factories in Xishuangbanna is a Menghai Tea Factory. They create their own blending in the 70s already. And another tea factory very famous in Xishuangbanna in Menghai is Liming. They are also very known and they can blend very well. So what is the difference between the single source versus to the blended? The tea leaves from the different village or different cottage, different region. Because they make sure the flavor and taste are very well balanced. And normally the flavor and taste almost pretty close to each other. I will never use identical. Why? Because tea is a natural agricultural product. It is not possible to have identical flavors and taste all the time. It is not possible. But they will try to put it as close as possible. So there's a formula. For example, 1542. This is the number from pu'er, from Dayi. And this, we know, this is the fixed formulas they will use. And now they are still using this one. So this formula still is able to produce today. But the single source is unique. If you have the tea, pu'er tea from the single source, every time you brew your tea, 3 to 5 grams will be forever disappear from this planet, from this world, because it can never be reproduced, duplicated. So you have Danzhu, you have Danping, then you have Pinpei. Pinpei, that means blending the tea from the different sources. And still, it is a pure authentic. The only thing is they blend in the tea either from the different seasons or from the different years. Certainly in the Sopura, we found that more. But Sempura, we have that less problems because normally it's a single year. Okay, particular time, particular season, locations as well. But Sopura, in order to have a more balanced, harmonious flavor and taste, sometimes they can blend the tea leaves from the different year or different seasons to create a very nice flavor, but still it's from that region. For example, Wuliangshan Soupu. It is from Wuliangshan, but the Wuliangshan is very big range. So from which part, the numbers in the collecting stations, they can blend it together. But still it's from Wuliangshan. So if we said expand it to the single origin to the Wuliangshan, they are all Wuliangshan. There's nothing to be faked about. But if you said, I want to have the collection station number 12, then you really have to make sure your suppliers know and compress the tea, only use the tea leaf over there. Then it is up to the trust relationship that you have with the tea suppliers. So either Danzhu, Danping, or Pinpei in Chinese specialty tea are all pure authentic quality. Now the next one is 调味茶. That means aromatic, flavored tea. And that is the most common commercial tea we can find in the market. So you will always have the same flavor, same taste, and even the dry leaves will give you very sexy flavors already. But nothing to do with authenticity from the tea leaves anymore, because it has been blended, and on top of it with extra aromatic flavor. Is that healthy? Then my question is, if you also like to drink whiskey, why you prefer the single malt instead of blending? This is Mei Lan from Belgian Chinese Tea Association. Wish you all a very pleasant evening.